Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine stepping back, way back, 30,000 years. What would you think is absolutely essential? What do you need to carry if your actual survival depends on it?
Right, not your phone or keys, I guess.
Exactly. No phone, no wallet. Today we're doing a deep dive into this really incredible archaeological find. It gives us this extraordinary, almost sort of intimate look into the personal gear of a hunter-gatherer from the Stone Age.
And it's pretty amazing. We're talking about a 30,000-year-old toolkit.
Found in the Czech Republic. And the key thing is it wasn't scattered. It was found neatly arranged, almost like the owner just, put it down for a second.
Uh-huh.
So this remarkable find gives us a rare kind of high-definition look into daily life, the resourcefulness and the travels of someone from what archaeologists call the Gravettian period.
That's right.
Our insights today, they're coming from a great article in New Scientist and also the detailed scientific paper in the Journal of Paleolithic Archaeology.
Yeah, the original study.
Our mission here is to explore what is it, 29 stone tools.
29, yeah.
What they tell us about how one person lived, how they hunted, how they survived in, well, a truly ancient world.
It's a fascinating glimpse.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. The setting is this place, the Milovice IV archaeological site. It's in the Pavlovské vrchy mountains, southeast Czech Republic.
Right.
Archaeologists have been working there, finding layers of human occupation. But then in 2009, a collapsed road actually revealed these ancient cellars. That led them deeper.
Kind of accidental discovery then.
So it sort of opened the door, yeah. And then fast forward to 2021, the team hits Archaeological Horizon II. It's a layer that charcoal dating puts between 29,550 and 30,250 years ago.
Smack bang in the Gravettian.
Exactly. And amidst all these horse and reindeer bones, signs of a good hunt, they found something really special, something that just stood out.
Okay.
Picture this. Not just like random bits scattered around, but a tightly clustered bundle. 29 stone tools, still positioned as if they've been wrapped up.
Wrapped in something organic, presumably.
Yeah, like a leather pouch maybe, that just decayed away over time. So it wasn't just discarded stuff, it was clearly a personal kit, a curated set of gear.
And what's genuinely exceptional here, really rare, is getting this kind of individual insight for the Paleolithic.
Right, usually it's more general, isn't it?
Exactly. So often the data gives us this broad, sort of averaged picture, traces of a whole group over a long time or across a whole site. We see the patterns, but not really the people.
Mm-hmm.
But this cluster, this neatly bundled toolkit, it gives us a really high-resolution snapshot, almost like a freeze frame, you could say,
Wow.
into a single episode in the life of one specific Gravettian hunter-gatherer. It's just an incredibly tangible link, almost emotional, to someone from 30,000 years ago.
A personal touch across all that time. That's incredible. And just quickly, for listeners, the Gravettian period, around 30,000 years ago, what was distinctive about that time?
Good question. The Gravettian, roughly 33,000 to maybe 22,000 years ago, was this time of, pretty impressive cultural and technological innovation across Europe.
Okay.
We see these characteristic projectile points, often called gravet points. There's also really amazing figurative art, those Venus figurines you might have heard of.
Right, the figurines.
It was a period when these nomadic hunter-gatherers were really thriving in diverse environments, adapting to, often quite challenging Ice Age climates. So finding such a personal kit from this era, it really fleshes out how individuals in these complex societies actually managed their day-to-day survival.
Okay, so not just random rocks.
Yeah.
What did this person consider essential? What actually made it into this survival kit?
Well, the kit was mostly blades and points. So we're talking about tools very carefully made for, yes, hunting, like tips for spears or maybe darts, but also for processing the game afterwards, skinning, some basic butchering, and even maybe more everyday tasks like cutting wood, perhaps for fire or shaping other tools.
So a real multi-tool kit for the time.
Absolutely. A versatile multi-purpose kit designed for a demanding life on the move where, every single item had to be useful.
And it wasn't pristine, right? Not like a brand new set. The research really emphasizes signs of significant use. So like digging into the details, what did that use-wear analysis show about how they were actually used?
Yeah, the use-wear analysis was, It was pretty revealing, like you said. Most of the blades in that pouch, heavily worn down. They showed these really distinct microscopic traces from being used over and over again, cutting and scraping.
On what kinds of material?
Or range, actually. Bone, wood, and especially animal hides. That suggests a lot of processing work, maybe preparing the game they caught, or perhaps making clothing or shelters, stuff like that.
Okay.
And here's where it gets even more specific. Some of the points, they had these tiny fractures and something we call microscopic linear impact traces, MLITs for short.
Impact traces, like from hitting something hard.
Exactly. These are tiny linear scars you can only really see under high magnification. They happen when a stone tool hits something hard, like bone, at high speed.
Ah, so projectile points.
That's the strong evidence, yes. It tells us these were likely used as tips for spears or arrows, projectiles. For instance, one artifact, number 1409, specifically showed these MLITs. Very clear evidence.
Okay.
And what's more, several tools also had marks suggesting they weren't just held in the hand, they were hafted.
Hafted, meaning attached to a handle.
Precisely. Attached to handles or shafts, making them part of more complex composite tools, which are generally more efficient.
Oh, right.
So it tells us they weren't just using these tools, but also actively, maintaining them, maybe repairing them out in the field.
So the tools themselves are telling stories.
Mm.
And they weren't just used heavily, they traveled a bit too, even before ending up at this site. The raw materials sound like they came from all over.
Oh, absolutely. The materials tell an amazing story of mobility, or maybe really extensive social networks, or perhaps both.
How far are we talking?
Well, if we connect the source of these stones to the bigger picture, it really highlights the reach of this individual, whether it was their own travel or through trade. About 2/3 of the tools were made from something called erratic flints.
Erratic flints.
Yeah,
Ah.
these are stones that were actually carried by ancient glaciers and then dropped far from where they originally formed geologically. These ones were found over 130 kilometers to the north.
Wow, 130 kilometers.
Yeah. So finding them implies either a deliberate journey to those glacial deposits or, trading with other groups who went there.
Okay, and were there other materials too?
Yes, definitely. There were radiolarites. That's a really fine-grained, very hard stone, excellent for sharp edges. They came from western Slovakia, about 100 kilometers away to the southeast.
So different directions too.
Different directions, yeah. And there was also some local chert, which is more common, and an opal. That opal could have come from maybe 40, maybe over 100 kilometers away from a geological area called the Moldanubian zone.
Which covers parts of Austria and the Czech Republic now.
That's right. So it really raises that important question. Did this person travel all those hundreds of kilometers themselves? Trekking along river valleys, ancient paths, directly collecting these specific stones.
Or did they get them through trade?
Exactly. Or were they acquired through established trade networks with other Gravettian groups, which would tell us about complex social interactions across these huge areas?
So what's it thinking? Travel or trade?
Well, the evidence suggests either scenario is plausible, or maybe more likely, it was a mix of both. Someone might travel to get some materials and trade for others.
Right.
But the key thing, the really fascinating part, is that all these different materials from all these distant places ended up together in one person's pouch. It just speaks volumes about how dynamic things were, the movement of people, resources, knowledge across that ancient landscape.
It's just astonishing to think about those distances. 100, 130 kilometers. That's not a quick trick, especially 30,000 years ago.
No, absolutely not. It implies a deep knowledge of the land, maybe a real eye for spotting these valuable resources.
And speaking of resources, this idea of recycling, it wasn't invented yesterday, was it? The sources say several pieces were actually recycled from older tools.
No, it's a really profound insight into their survival strategies. It's not just about saving stuff. It's powerful evidence of what archaeologists sometimes call economical handling of raw material.
Economical handling.
Yeah, basically careful planning, conservation, really smart use of their stone tool resources. Many pieces in this kit were quite worn down. Some were broken. Some were incredibly small. Yet they kept them.
They didn't just toss them.
No. And this isn't just, picking up something useful by chance. It strongly suggests there were times, maybe during hunting trips or migrations, when getting new, good quality stone was really difficult. So every fragment, no matter how tiny, became valuable. Think about the decision-making involved, right? Do I use this tiny worn piece now or save it because I might need it more desperately later? It shows a really pragmatic approach to managing their toolkit.
So even tiny chips were reused.
Absolutely. Even things called spalls, those little flakes that break off when you're making a tool, or sometimes when a tool breaks during use, even those were often picked up and repurposed.
Really?
Yeah, for example, artifact 1411, it was clearly a spall, but it showed definite hide-working traces on its edges.
But that wouldn't have been its original purpose.
No way. So it was repurposed, maybe used as a tiny scraper, or perhaps set into a handle as part of a composite tool. It proves even these tiny bits had value.
So it wasn't sentimental. It was pure, hardcore practicality. These bits were kept for reuse, maybe to be reworked later or just held in reserve. It suggests amazing foresight, doesn't it?
It really does.
But couldn't some of that just be, making the best of a bad situation, opportunistic? How do we know it points to pressing scarcity versus just being generally resourceful?
That's a fair question, a really good distinction to make. I think the key is the extent of the recycling and the condition of the pieces they kept. While, sure, opportunism always plays a role, the fact that they kept these extremely small, broken, and heavily worn pieces alongside more functional ones, that points to something more deliberate than just making do.
Right, it wasn't just the odd piece.
Exactly. It suggests a conscious strategy of conservation, probably born from experience in landscapes where finding new, high-quality stone wasn't a given, especially if they were far from their main camp or known quarries.
So it tells us about their movements, too.
I think so. This kind of extreme economizing behavior, it would be much less critical if you were back at a well-supplied base camp, right? Where you maybe had a stockpile of good stone and you could easily make new tools. The fact that these tiny, worn, broken bits were part of a personal portable kit strongly suggests this toolkit was used, modified, and carefully curated during expeditions, out in landscapes where good stone was scarce or just too far away.
It paints a picture of a more mobile life, or at least periods of mobility.
Exactly, a nomadic or semi-nomadic life where planning, foresight, and resourcefulness were just absolutely critical for survival. They couldn't afford waste. Every chip, every shard had potential value.
That really drives home the practicality. Okay, so beyond the materials and the recycling, what about the specific types of tools in the kit? What does the mix tell us about the actual day-to-day things this hunter was doing on these trips?
Yeah, the functional analysis painted a pretty vivid picture of the daily grind, so to speak. As we touched on, most tools were clearly used, and for a range of tasks.
Right.
We saw clear evidence of longitudinal motions, think slicing, cutting through hide or meat. Transversal motions more like scraping, maybe planing wood, and even some rotary motion.
Rotary, like drilling.
Possibly drilling, yeah, or maybe perforating materials, perhaps preparing leather for stitching, something like that. The analysis showed they were working medium hard stuff like bone or denser woods, and also soft materials like animal hides and sometimes combinations.
But definitely confirming that multi-purpose nature you mentioned.
Absolutely. It was designed for adaptability, ready for different tasks in unpredictable situations.
And interestingly, what was missing from the kit? That seems just as important.
It really is. It's like the negative space tells part of the story. While the main Milovice V site, the bigger, probably residential camp, had lots of larger, more formal tools.
Like what?
Like heavy-duty scrapers, bigger knives, more substantial projectile points. Those kinds of things were abundant at the main site, but they are noticeably absent from this specific personal toolkit.
Ah, okay. So what does that suggest?
Well, it suggests a pretty clear division of labor, or at least activity zones. This personal pouch seems to have contained what was needed for immediate essential tasks while out on an expedition.
The bare necessities for the trip itself.
Kind of, yeah. Perhaps only the most basic stuff, like the initial butchering of game. Remember the horse and reindeer bones found there? Maybe that happened right after the hunt. But the more elaborate processing, detailed hide preparation, extensive carving of bone or antler, maybe making new, larger tools that probably happened back at the main camp.
Where they had more time, maybe more specialized tools.
Exactly. Back there, they'd likely have access to a wider range of tools, maybe more raw materials stored up, and just the stability to sit down and do more complex, time-consuming tasks. This kit was for the front lines, for immediate needs out in the field, not for setting up a long-term workshop.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together then. We've got the personal nature of the kit, the materials from hundreds of kilometers away, the intense recycling, the specific tools for immediate tasks. What does this tell us overall about Gravettian societies? about their mobility, how they managed resources.
Well, it significantly enriches our picture, doesn't it? Our understanding of these middle to late Gravettian subsistence strategies, how they settled the landscape. This personal cluster gives us direct, really undeniable evidence of individual mobility and resource acquisition.
It puts a person back into the picture.
It really does. It shows how one person could either travel huge distances themselves or tap into these extensive social networks to get the raw materials they needed. It makes us think about the individual's role, their agency within those broader group dynamics. And it also shines a light on what we often call archaeologically nearly invisible behavior. You know, those shorter trips, hunting trips, foraging expeditions away from the bigger, perhaps seasonally stable base camps.
The kinds of things that don't usually leave a big trace.
Exactly. Trips where high-quality stone was just too valuable to be careless with or leave behind. This discovery lets us reconstruct those moments, those episodes away from the main camp.
Right.
It shows us how personal gear was carefully adapted to meet specific situational needs and how individuals were actively participating in these really extensive raw material circulation patterns that were typical for this region back then. It just brings the individual out of the archaeological record in a way that's, frankly, quite rare and exciting.
This whole deep dive into a 30,000-year-old toolkit, it really has brought an individual from the Gravettian period to life, hasn't it? In such a vivid way.
It really feels like that.
From the incredible journeys implied by the raw materials, carried over vast distances, to that meticulous recycling of every tiny fragment. This hunter-gatherer's pouch tells such a powerful story. A story of survival, of adaptability, and that deep fundamental connection between people and their tools. It's timeless, really.
Absolutely.
It's just a vivid reminder of the sheer ingenuity, the resourcefulness needed to thrive in those ancient landscapes, where every resource counted and every choice mattered immensely. And, you know, it leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? A question for you listening. What everyday objects do you carry around? What's in your pocket or your bag that maybe 30,000 years from now might tell a story about your life, your travels, and how you adapt to the resources and the challenges around you? Something to think about.